Are your kitchen and bathroom way overdue for a remodel? Well, I got the guy for you. Call John Sellers at First Response Contracting, 484-256-7136. Both residential and commercial services, and he's licensed and insured. Call him at 484-256-7136. First Response Contracting. Hello, this is Brad Weisman. You're listening to Real Estate and You. We are back again. Here talking about real estate, of course, because that's pretty much all we do. And this time it's something a little different, something I don't think I have done before. And that is I brought in a client, or actually a past client right now, who just bought a house. Him and his girlfriend went through a lot to get to a house, and it's all part of this super sellers market. And that's kind of what I've been coining this as. And we're going to get right into it and talk to Jay to find out what is it like to be a buyer in this market.
Yes.
Jay, how is it?
It's tough.
It's tough?
It is tough, yes.
Yeah. Is it as tough as somebody asking you to come in and do a podcast?
No.
No, not quite that tough. So Jay, I met Jay actually, and you can attest this. We met a couple years ago.
Yes.
I was looking for a car.
Yes.
It was at the BMW place, which is, I guess, is Misano
Correct.
BMW, right? I'm going to make sure I don't get that wrong. Misano BMW. And I had the kids with me, and somehow I stuck in your mind, I guess, as somebody that knows something about real estate, which is actually pretty funny.
I mean, as a salesperson, you kind of judge people. You kind of figure people out. That stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so when it was time, I was like, yep, I'm just going to call Brad. I still had his info.
That's
I was
amazing.
Like, let's do it. And right off the bat, I remember my conversation with you was basically, Brad, don't sugarcoat it to me. I need somebody to. It's a first time home purchase.
Yep.
I need somebody to guide me through it, but I need somebody to not okay, well, we'll try again next time. I just be real with me, and we'll get through it.
Yeah. And you know what? In this market, I think it's the only way you can be.
Yeah.
It's so different. And I say this all the time about how long I've been doing this, and this market, and I think I probably said this to you when we started working together, is this market is completely different than any other market.
Yes.
That's why I call it the super seller market. I mean, it's just crazy. So one of the things is I wanted to talk about is, what did you hear ahead of time? Because, I can sit here and tell you all these things about the market. I can try to build the expectation, but what did you hear about this market before you called me, before you jumped in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely, whether it's through clients, family, I just heard so-and-so just bought a house. They paid this much over asking, and all kinds of stories of just exorbitant amounts of money over asking because that's just, supply demand, and that's what you had to do to win.
Yeah.
So coming into it was like, okay, A, is this really the right time? B, is it, what I really want? Mm-hmm. And kind of answering those questions, talking to Nikki, getting all that stuff figured out. And then, pulling the trigger and saying, okay, yes, let's take it to the next step with, getting in touch with you to, okay, what's those steps? Where do you begin?
Right.
What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, and it pretty much from what you heard. So the good thing is that I'm hearing this now. The good thing is you did hear this ahead of time before coming to me. You kind of knew what you were getting into. I think the media is definitely stirring this up and telling people, for one thing, for one time, the media actually is doing something right. Yeah. They're saying the right things, and and you were still, after that, you're still willing to jump into this.
Yes. I had been looking for a while, or at least on the back burner, just something I had been ready for, that I had plans for maybe years past, never really fell into place. Timing wasn't right, whatever the situation was. And, finally at that point where I was like, okay, things are good, job's good, everything's stable. Market's not exactly ideal for a buyer right now.
Right.
But I remember saying to you on that phone call, I was like, I understand I'm going to go at or above asking.
Right.
I've already come to terms with that.
Right.
But what I need to have out of the house, the home, all of that, I have to check off X number of boxes if I'm going to be willing to pay that much for it.
Gotcha.
I know I'm going to need, certain things, and then not compromise and say, okay, I need that stuff if I'm going to pay this much over, or if it is a nice house and it only checks off so many boxes, I'm only willing to go so much over,
right,
to say I have to put a cap on it on this house because it's not everything I wanted.
So you had a plan coming forward.
I did.
You had a plan. You kind of knew in your mind what you wanted to do, what you were willing to spend, and what you're willing to give up, if need be, to get the house that you wanted. Whether A, you're going to pay even more over full price, or B, you pay a little bit over full price or full price and not get everything you wanted, or not get certain things. So, and we looked at, I'm not sure how many houses we looked at, but how many offers did we put in?
3 offers.
3 offers, and we got it on the third one,
Yes.
correct? When you didn't get that first house, even though you knew about the market and you knew everything going on and you knew what you were getting into, how did you feel?
I actually kind of expected it.
Interesting.
Myself.
How did Nikki feel? Was she upset?
I think so, a little bit.
Yeah.
She took her cue from me, at least, I think, in terms of like, okay, well, this was the first offer that we put in. I didn't expect to come out on top the very first time. That being said, it's still, hey, we like the house. We put an offer on it. It could be real. It could. You have to be prepared. If you're putting an offer in, you have to know that that could be your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think when we got the news from you and you're like, hey, they went with somebody else and here's the reasons why, and you kind of start to learn those things. It's like, okay, all right, well, that makes sense. And okay, next time around when we're ready for it, okay, this is, we'll explore that option for, a concession or whatever.
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is probably which is the conversation we have. And, the first time we write an offer with a client like yourself, it's hard to say, okay, here's everything everybody's doing.
Yes.
Are you willing to do this? And usually on the first one, you're like, I don't know. And then you lose one. And then you get that under your belt. And then it's like, okay, this didn't feel good. We want to get the house. What are the other ideas? So then we started talking about what? Covering the appraisal, a little bit of the appraisal, right?
Correct.
If it comes in under, we go a little, we go in a little higher. Obviously, how did you feel about no inspections?
It definitely was okay.
Yeah.
Take a step back, and that's just what everybody's doing. It kind of sucks to go along with well, that's what everybody's doing.
Of course it does.
Yeah. But it's also, it just brought to mind more of what I was looking for, what I was going to be okay with, what I had to look for myself when doing a walkthrough.
Yeah. Definitely take your time a little bit more, right?
And paying attention to those things that I'm like, okay, normally you're just like, oh, that's nice. I like this room. But it's like, okay, I'm paying attention to this outlet that I saw or whatever, and the tub looks a certain way.
Yeah.
And so, taking a little bit of that upon myself, I am lucky that, my dad is very handy and had done construction in the past, woodworking, all that kind of stuff.
That made you feel more confident too, right?
Spent, almost 30 years in insurance.
Yeah.
So talking with him, it's like, okay, well,
look at this, look at that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I was lucky with that, to have a little bit of that background, and support from him. But it's definitely one of those things that, and people at work like, what? You're crazy. No inspections. And I'm like, then I'm not going to get the house.
Yeah. And it's funny, and just so you know, that's only about 18 months to 2 years old. That's that scenario. Okay. Yeah. In the past, being a buyer agent, and even to this day, I think the conversation that I typically have, and I probably do with you, is that I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm saying this is what people are doing to get the house. Right. I'm not saying this is a great idea. It's just that when nobody's asking for inspections anymore, you're not going to, and all of a sudden you come in and ask for inspections, guess who gets picked? You're out.
Exactly.
So it's it's one of those things. But so that was probably a little different for you, and probably your parents and everybody else that talked to you said, "Oh my gosh, no inspections? Are you crazy?"
And then I turned around and say, "Well, the house was built in 2004." And
exactly.
Looking at things, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting into a 1960s house. I'm not getting into my parents' house is built in 1880. It's I'm not getting into that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Little different there.
Yeah, definitely.
So we end up doing the second offer,
Yes.
and we didn't get that one.
Correct.
Did that change then your attitude a little bit?
That one hurt more.
That would hurt more.
That one
It
hurt
stung.
more because we planned a little bit more. We talked it out a little bit more.
Gotcha.
We're like, hey, we're gonna go in like this, and we're gonna do one of those options that we talked about. Covering a little bit of appraisal, this and that, and everything. And we were kind of like, okay, this feels good. We like the house more. We like the location, everything like that. And, not hearing anything. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably not good news then.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that one stung, like you said,
stung a little bit more.
because you could start to see yourself living there.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
The very first one that we put an offer in was one of the first houses that we looked at.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like you said, get it under your belt.
Yep.
And, for me, it was like, okay, offer number 2, start to visualize it. Don't want to get your hopes up too much, but that is almost inevitable.
Yeah.
Especially with a first-time home buyer.
And
it's
I think-
I can see it.
And I think with the first one, and I'm kind of realizing this as you talk, a lot of times the things go on in my head, and this is where I like to interject, is that what's interesting is you can tell somebody till you're blue in the face about a market or about something.
Yes.
Okay. And they say, yes, I believe it. I understand it. I agree with it. I'm
Right.
okay with it. But when it actually happens to you,
Yes.
doesn't that change it a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
it
I
does,
saw
right?
somewhere or heard from somebody that experience matters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It really does.
It does.
Change it.
It changes it.
experiencing it for yourself
Yeah.
as a person. I've always been that kind of a learner as well, to experience something
Sure,
and
sure.
and then okay, now I have something to look back at.
Yeah.
Something tangible and say, hey, okay, I've been through it this way. And it does. It changes
Yeah. So second one-
it changes a little bit.
So the second one hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you go to the third one. Now at that point I always think, okay, do you get to a point when you're like, screw it. If we don't get this one, it's fine too. You know what I mean? Like, do you get to that point? Did that feel like that? Does it? So it's first when you're like, okay, we're all right. Second one, it hurts because I fell in love with it. Third one, you're like, screw it. If we get it, great. If we don't, we'll keep looking.
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, because
Ooh.
we really did like that one.
Okay.
It
is a nice one.
It was the one that, of all the houses, I think I counted it up. It was like 10 or 11 that we actually looked at.
Yeah.
It was the one that we both agreed we liked the most, hands down, out of all of them. So it was one of those like, okay,
This better.
I'm coming
Yeah.
in, and Brad's going to help me with this one, and we're going to
coming in strong.
I'm coming in strong.
Yep.
And I'm going to make sure that I do everything I can to leave it all on the table. Without going crazy, because I did say right up front, I was like, Brad, don't let me do anything stupid.
Yeah. Don't want to do stupid things.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we're going to do everything that we can, and chips fall where they may.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a little bit of if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. But it was definitely like we had our hopes up. We want this house.
Right.
Yes.
If that wouldn't have happened, would you have kept going?
That's a great question. I don't know that I would have given up, but it definitely would have, I think,
Sit back a little bit,
turned
maybe?
that corner of like, all right, here we go again. Let's just throw this one up there.
yeah.
And your heart's not in it as much when,
Right.
you're shopping for your home.
Yeah.
I mean, home is where the heart is.
Absolutely. Do you love your home?
Yes, absolutely.
So after all that process,
Yes.
isn't it great to know that you bought a house that you absolutely love?
Yes. And you did say that after it was either the first or the second one,
Yeah.
I do not remember, but you're like, I've never had anybody not find a home and not find something that they love.
Yeah.
And, you're just like, don't give up on me.
Yep.
Don't give in. And, it was funny because at that point I was like, thought didn't cross my mind too much about, packing it in or anything like that. And then after the third one, if that was a no, I think that would have been a big blow. And it would have been we're still going with it, but maybe this is like, it's time to renew the lease a whole year. Like,
And that's
go
what
the whole year.
happens. And what's funny is as a renter, that's what happens. A lot of times what happens is you go, well, then screw it. I'm going to re-up the lease again. I'll pay the another $150 a month more, whatever it is, because I can't handle the depression anymore. I can't handle going through this anymore. So it's interesting, but you got a great house, and I think it's awesome. What advice would you have for somebody coming into the market just as you did, what would be the best advice that you could give?
Definitely, I felt like it really helped that I prepared, that I did my homework, that I did a lot of research, talked to people before I even reached out to you.
Cool.
As something as simple as looking at the houses, A, knowing that they're not going to be there, but B, to figure out what I wanted.
Yeah.
I had a general idea of where I'd be okay with, or what type of, community it would be and everything like that. But it was, you start to look through all of that, and it's like, okay, I really like this. I really did not like this. I really was okay on that.
Yeah.
And you just start to filter things down and have something in your mind so that when that house comes up, it's yes, boom,
Yeah.
I want that. Brad, get me that house.
Yeah.
I remember on the house that we got, we were preparing to see another listing that was your listing.
Yeah.
And this came
I remember
up.
that.
This came up a day or two before we were supposed to go to that showing, and I immediately jumped on the email and I'm like, want to see this one too.
Yeah.
Can we fit in?
Yep.
Because I was like, wow, that's really nice. It's where we like all that stuff.
A block away from one you lost.
Yes. Literally.
blocks away, yeah,
Literally.
whatever it is.
So doing your homework, doing your research, really made it a lot easier to talk to you about it and set expectations. You did a great job setting expectations in the beginning. And just kind of saying like, hey, I did a pre-approval through my credit union. You're like, hey, I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but here's something that you should know.
Yep.
And it was
nothing against credit unions at all.
No, but it definitely, and I said this in the process too, is like, I know that had I stayed with my credit union, there would have been plenty of hurdles with, like you said, these decisions are not made on banking hours.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. I mean, you just have to make sure that whoever your lender is in this market, especially, when we need a pre-approval, we need a pre-approval.
Right.
Period. That's just the way it is. And sometimes that doesn't happen through certain lending institutions. So I just want to say thanks so much for coming on here today and sharing a little bit of your story, because you guys were great to work with. You took advice. You made great decisions on your own. You did the homework up front, which is really, really smart. And that really helps us. It really does. It helps my job. It helps me, because you see it. You read about it. You know what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, I'd love to come back.
I would love to have you back. And if you need a BMW, Masano BMW, you can look him up. I'll give a plug for you. How's that?
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. So it's Jay Simon here, and he was just a great customer. So was his girlfriend, Nikki, and I just want to thank you for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it. Jay Simon. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to bring more customers in here, I think, because I get to hear another side of the story, which is really cool. So I'm going to bring somebody in here, I think, next week again to talk about this. And actually, the girl that's coming in, her and her boyfriend put in 8 different offers. So you'll definitely want to hear about that one. It's a good story. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Are your kitchen and bathroom remodels a little overdue? Well, now's your chance to call First Response Contracting. John Sellers will take care of you. 484-256-7136. They do residential and commercial, and they're licensed and insured. Give them a call at 484-256-7136.